I've been going at this all day. Look, it's like dark outside. But I got another poem for you. Are you ready? So this one is called In the Waiting Room by Elizabeth Bishop. And I might have found another recording of her actually reading the poem, just like I was able to do with, I think it was the Sylvia Plath poem too. So, hope you enjoy.
In Worcester, Massachusetts, I went with Aunt Consuelo to keep her dentist appointment and sat and waited for her in the dentist's waiting room. It was winter. It got dark early. The waiting room was full of grown-up people, arctics and overcoats, lamps and magazines. My aunt was inside what seemed like a long time, and while I waited, I read the National Geographic. I could read, and carefully studied the photographs. The inside of a volcano, black and full of ashes. Then it was spilling over in rivulets of fire. Osa and Martin Johnson dressed in riding breeches, laced boots, and pith helmets. A dead man slung on a pole. Long pig, the caption said. Babies with pointed heads wound round and round with string. Black, naked women with necks wound round and round with wire, like the necks of light bulbs. Their breasts were horrifying. I read it right straight through. I was too shy to stop. And then I looked at the cover, the yellow margins, the date. Suddenly from inside came an "oh" of pain. Aunt Consuelo's voice. Not very loud or long. I wasn't at all surprised. Even then I knew she was a foolish, timid woman. I might have been embarrassed, but wasn't. What took me completely by surprise was that it was me. My voice in my mouth. Without thinking at all, I was my foolish aunt. We were falling, our eyes glued to the cover of the National Geographic, February 1918. I said to myself, 3 days and you will be 7 years old. I was saying it to stop the sensation of falling off the round, turning world into cold blue-black space. But I felt, you are an I. You are an Elizabeth. You're one of them. Why should you be one, too? I scarcely dared to look to see what it was I was. I gave a sidelong glance. I couldn't look any higher. At shadowy gray knees, trousers and skirts and boots, and different pairs of hands lying under the lamps. I knew that nothing stranger had ever happened, that nothing stranger could ever happen. Why should I be my aunt, or me, or anyone? What similarities? Boots, hands, the family voice I felt in my throat, or even the National Geographic and those awful hanging breasts held us all together, or made us all just one. How, I didn't know any word for it, how unlikely. How had I come to be here like them, and overhear a cry of pain that could have got loud and worse, but hadn't? The waiting room was bright and too hot. It was sliding beneath a big black wave, another and another. Then I was back in it. The war was on. Outside in Worcester, Massachusetts were night and slush and cold, and it was still the 5th of February, 1918.
There are some really interesting things going on in this poem. I want to start with the summary because this poem is really confusing on a surface level for me. So here is what I came up with. The speaker of the poem is a child alive during World War I. They are with their aunt at the dentist, where the speaker reads National Geographic and feels a sense of maturity or coming of age, and maybe suddenly feels this. So let's talk through this just a little bit. I notice when I'm looking at this, there are a number of stanzas. So I noticed that first of all, This poem is very long. I believe it's 95 lines long. I notice that this whole first column and half of this, that's all one stanza. Then the second stanza starts, boom, third stanza, fourth, fifth. I'm noticing the point of view. The fact that this poem is told from the perspective of a 6-year-old during wartime. Once I was able to identify that and fully remind myself and remember that the speaker, the person speaking to us, is a child. The person speaking to us is a child alive in 1918. Okay, put yourself there. Now, the person speaking to us is a child in 1918 who is looking through a National Geographic magazine. I don't know if you have ever noticed, but in our classroom on the back wall near the computers is my collection of National Geographics. I have maybe 3 shelves full, I think. For me, growing up, National Geographic was a really important magazine. I'm not that old, I realize that, but there was not internet when I was growing up, and National Geographic was a thick magazine that had a lot of pictures, a lot of color pictures of different places, different people, different cultures, different foods. And its approach, it's very much like a scientific sociology, just like humankind focused magazine. Okay, so let's put all of that together. It's really important, and I know this really does look the same as what's not in bold, but now that we have those 3 things in our mind, the time period, who the speaker is, and what they're doing, I hope that the meaning has changed a little bit for you, because I know it really did for me. So it's a child speaking during World War I who's looking at a National Geographic, surface level. Now a little deeper. National Geographic magazines offer, because they're still around right now, an escape from reality and a look into different countries and cultures. So this kid who maybe has never seen this before, or even if they have, they live in 1918, you guys. That was so long ago. Life was so different then. They're looking at a National Geographic and they see breasts. And they see people who I think their necks have been stretched. They see a lot of different things that they've never seen before in their life. So the subjects that I see, they're a little different, but this is what comes to my mind. In the beginning right here, I really like this because there's several things going on here. We have enjambment again. So that is when in poetry, when you're forced to the next line, because there's no punctuation at the end. So notice that this whole first part right here, that's all one sentence. And then there are 2 small sentences. And then there's a medium sentence. And then there's a very long sentence here. I really like this part because I noticed that there's a colon right here. And I'm remembering way back in the beginning of the year, I have the syntax intro resource that I'm looking to, and colons tell the reader that something important will follow. Don't confuse a colon with a semicolon. Boom, because semicolons show equal importance. But in our poem, right here, that is not a semicolon. That is a colon. And so what I know is the colon throws the emphasis on what's to come after it. I like this. I can hear a kid saying this. I like this part down here because, again, I can really see it, and it does sound kind of odd or strange to me. It's not something I'm used to. I like this part. Okay, so now the parts that gave me trouble. This part, the Elizabeth part. There's something there, and I don't know what it is, but I don't need to know what it is right now because this is just the first round of our March Madness, remember? I also am not 100% sure what the effect of these questions are. I noticed that these questions start the same as well, and I'm just not sure what the effect is. And then lastly, the final stanza, I'm not lost on it, but I feel like there's more to it than I'm getting from it. Okay, so that, my friend, is In the Waiting Room by Elizabeth Bishop. at first very complicated for me, but again, once I was able to crack that point of view importance, it really, really helped. Alrighty.